It started with something small. My old gaming PC was dying. I built it 7 years ago, back when I could run anything smoothly. Now it crashed, lagged, and took forever to load. I decided it was time to upgrade. I had saved enough money from my bonuses. I planned everything carefully, compared prices, and made a spreadsheet. The total cost would be around $2,300. Reasonable for a machine that would last years. One morning, I showed Laura the parts list. She was making coffee, scrolling through her phone. I told her the price had dropped, and it was the perfect time to buy. Her shoulders stiffened before she turned around. "Ethan, we can't afford that right now," she said quietly. I blinked, confused. We had more than $30,000 in our savings account. The computer wouldn't even touch 10% of it. I reminded her we had planned this for months. She didn't look up. "With the house deposit coming, we need to save every dollar." Her tone was sharp, colder than usual. It caught me off guard. Laura was never strict about money before. She spent freely on clothes, brunches, and weekend getaways. Just last month, she bought a $600 massage chair cushion. 2 weeks later, a new mixer that she used once. And now she was telling me a work-related computer was too expensive. I asked when she thought would be a good time to upgrade. She sighed loudly and said, "Maybe after we close on the house." Her words sounded final. I didn't want to argue. I closed my laptop and dropped the subject. Marriage, I told myself, was about compromise. Still, the way she dismissed me didn't sit right. A week later, my friends invited me to join a private gaming server. It cost $40 for the entire year. When I mentioned it, Laura frowned immediately. "Didn't we just talk about saving? You really don't get it, do you?" Her words stung. $40 was nothing. I laughed it off, but her expression didn't change. She looked angry, almost disgusted. "It's just games, Ethan. It's a waste." A waste. That word echoed in my head long after the argument ended. Gaming wasn't a waste to me. It was how I relaxed after long days. It was how I stayed connected with my friends. But that night, I let it go again. A month later, my parents called about my birthday. They offered to help with my PC, upgrade as a gift. $500 from their savings, just for me. I told Laura, expecting her to smile. Instead, she looked annoyed. "Maybe you should ask them to give cash instead. We could add it to the house fund." I stared at her in disbelief. "It's my birthday, Laura. They want me to have something I enjoy." She shrugged and said, "It just feels wasteful." That was the first time I truly felt something was off. Not about money, but about us. Her warmth was gone, replaced by control and resentment. And for the first time, I wondered if I was married to the same woman anymore. The tension didn't fade after that. Laura became secretive about money. She always handled our bills, and I trusted her. But one night, I logged into the joint account. I noticed small transfers that didn't make sense. $300 moved out. Then $500 came back in. A week later, another $1,000 gone. The notes were vague, like personal expense or misc. It looked messy, but I didn't want to accuse her. Maybe she was reorganizing payments. Maybe I was overthinking. Still, something about it felt wrong. When I asked her about the transfers, she froze. Her eyes narrowed just slightly. "Why are you checking the account?" she asked sharply. "I just wanted to understand what's happening," I said. Her tone changed instantly. "So now you don't trust me." I sighed and said it wasn't about trust. It was about clarity. She turned away, scrolling through her phone. "Well, stop noticing. It's my money too." That line hit harder than she realized. Our savings were for both of us. For the house, for our future. But she said it like we were on opposite sides. I dropped the subject to keep the peace. The next few weeks felt strange. Laura came home late more often. She said she had work meetings or book club nights. I believed her mostly, but the way she guarded her phone made me uneasy. She used to leave it anywhere. Now it was always face down, always locked. Every time it buzzed, she'd grab it fast. Once, while she was in the shower, a message popped up. The screen lit for half a second. I saw just 2 words, "Thank you." No name, just a preview from an unknown number. My stomach tightened, but I said nothing. I didn't want to be that husband, the paranoid one who snoops and accuses. But at night, I lay awake thinking about that message. The next day, she asked me if I could transfer my paycheck earlier. She said rent was due, and the account was low. I checked later. The payment was already made, yet the balance was still shrinking. I wanted to believe it was all just bad timing. Maybe bills stacked up. Maybe she covered something unexpected. But the pattern repeated. Money disappeared, then reappeared in small amounts. It was like watching sand slip through my fingers. One Friday, I asked if she could show me the spreadsheet. She laughed nervously. "I'll update it later, don't worry." Her voice was too bright, too controlled. That night, she went out with her friends again. I sat in the living room, staring at our bank app. I didn't know what I was looking for anymore. Proof of something, maybe. Or just reassurance that I wasn't going crazy. Either way, the numbers told a story she refused to explain. And deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth surfaced. It happened on a quiet Thursday night. Laura said she was going to her book club. I stayed home, working on a project and checking our finances. When I opened our joint savings, my heart stopped. The balance showed $7,200. That couldn't be right. We had more than $35,000 last month. I refreshed the page again and again. Still the same number. My hands started shaking. I opened the transaction history. There they were. Dozens of transfers to Laura's personal account. 3,000. 2,500. 4,000. Each marked with random notes: medical, family, MISC. The total was nearly 28,000. I stared at the screen, trying to breathe. It felt like the air had been punched out of me. I called her immediately. She answered on the 3rd ring, sounding cheerful. "Hey babe, what's up?" I didn't waste time. "Laura, why is there only 7,000 in our account?" The line went silent. Then I heard her step away from the noise. "I was going to talk to you about that," she said quietly. "Talk to me about what?" I asked. She took a long pause before answering. "Mark needed help. He was in a bad place. I helped him get treatment." My stomach twisted. "Mark, your ex-boyfriend Mark." She hesitated, then whispered, "Yes." I laughed out loud. A sharp, bitter sound. "You're telling me you used our house money for your ex?" "It's not what you think," she said quickly. "He's been struggling with depression. The retreat is for healing." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You spent $28,000 on his spa vacation." "It's not a spa, it's a therapy program," she snapped. I paced the room, gripping my phone. "We've been saving for years, Laura, for us, for our future." "I know, but he needed me," she said, her voice cracking. "You could have told me," I shouted. "You could have asked before taking everything." "I knew you'd say no," she said flatly. That broke something inside me. "I trusted you," I said quietly. "And you used that trust to take everything we built." "I'm going to pay it back," she insisted. "With what? You make $45,000 a year." She had no answer. Just silence. I ended the call and sat there in the dark. The woman I thought I knew had emptied our future for another man. The same woman who told me we were too broke for a computer. Too broke for $40 with friends. But not too broke to send her ex to a luxury retreat in Arizona. I opened the retreat's website. Photos of red rocks, yoga classes, and private chefs filled the screen. It wasn't therapy. It was a vacation for rich people who needed excuses. I felt sick. That night, I knew our marriage wasn't just cracked. It was shattered beyond repair. When Laura came home that night, I was waiting. The dining table was covered with papers and screenshots. Bank statements, receipts, emails, Venmo records, everything. She froze in the doorway, her face draining of color. "Ethan, what is all this?" she whispered. I pointed at the printed invoice. $18,000. Desert Serenity Healing Center. Her lips trembled. "I can explain," she started. "No, you're going to listen first," I said. I had never raised my voice to her before. But tonight, the words burned on my tongue. "You told me we couldn't afford a computer. You told me we couldn't spend $40 with friends. And yet, you sent $35,000 to your ex-boyfriend." She sat down slowly, tears forming in her eyes. "It wasn't like that," she said softly. "He was struggling. I was just trying to help." "Help," I snapped. "You paid his rent for 6 months. You bought him a MacBook. You covered his therapy retreat and food delivery. You didn't help him, Laura. You funded his life." Her tears started to fall harder. "You don't understand. He was desperate." "I don't care how desperate he was," I said coldly. "You took our house money. You lied to me for months." "It was my money too," she argued. "Our money," I corrected. "Money meant for our future, not his recovery." She covered her face with her hands, sobbing. "I didn't think you'd understand," she said between breaths. "You're right," I said quietly. "I don't understand why my wife drained our savings for another man." I picked up a photo from the table, the retreat brochure. Perfect sunsets, meditation domes, yoga decks, saltwater pools. "This isn't therapy," I said. "It's a luxury vacation, with incense and horse therapy." Her crying grew louder, but I couldn't feel pity anymore. "You said we were too poor for my birthday gift," I continued. "But you had no problem paying for his designer healing." She looked up, eyes red. "I love you, Ethan. This doesn't change that." "It changes everything," I replied. "You chose him over us, over me." "That's not fair," she whispered. "Fair," I laughed bitterly. "Fair would have been asking me before taking our money. Fair would have been honesty, not secret transfers and lies." She said nothing. The silence was heavy, choking the room. I gathered the papers and shoved them back into the folder. "I'm done," I said. "I can't live wondering who you're saving next." Laura reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back. For a moment, we just stared at each other, strangers in the same house. Then I walked away, leaving her sobs echoing behind me. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt nothing at all. The next morning, I called my older brother, David. He's a lawyer, practical, calm, the kind of man who never panics. I told him everything from start to finish. He was silent for a long moment, then sighed deeply. "Ethan, this is bad," he said finally. "She took money from a joint account without your consent." I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "I don't want to destroy her," I said quietly. "I just don't know what to do." "You need to protect yourself," he said firmly. "Move your assets before she drains more." That night, I opened a new bank account under my name only. I transferred my personal savings, about $45,000. Then I set up a trust with my parents as co-trustees. My 401k, investments, and car, everything went there. I didn't tell Laura. I couldn't trust her with a single word anymore. She acted as if nothing had happened. She still cooked dinner, watched TV, and smiled at me. But I could see the distance behind her eyes. It felt like living with a stranger wearing my wife's face. One night, I checked our phone bill online. It listed every call and text from both numbers. Hundreds of messages between her and Mark. Hours of late-night calls while I was in the next room. That was the breaking point. I confronted her the next morning at breakfast. "I need you to stop talking to him," I said calmly. She looked shocked, then defensive. "He's my friend. You can't control who I talk to." "Your friend," I repeated. "You've given him $35,000. You've risked our future, and you're still calling him every night." "You're being jealous," she snapped. "This is exactly why I didn't tell you." I laughed bitterly. "Jealous? I'm not jealous, I'm humiliated." She pushed her plate away, her voice rising. "You can't tell me who I can or can't care about." "I'm not trying to control you," I said. "I'm just done being your financial backup plan." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sat there, staring at her empty chair. The silence in the apartment felt heavier than ever. That evening, I called David again. "I want to file for divorce," I said. There was no hesitation in my voice. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. "She's not going to change," I replied. "She made her choice. Now I'm making mine." We started the paperwork that night. He told me to document everything. Every message, every transfer, every lie. I organized them into folders by date and type. Screenshots, receipts, even copies of the retreat invoice. Each file was another nail in the coffin of our marriage. While Laura slept in the other room, I built my escape. By the time she realized what was happening, it would be too late. I wasn't angry anymore. Just exhausted. Completely done. The woman I loved had turned into someone I couldn't recognize. And I finally decided to stop waiting for her to come back. The divorce papers were filed 2 weeks later. David helped me prepare every detail, every document, every piece of proof. He built the case like a wall, solid, undeniable, final. Laura was served at her office on a Tuesday morning. I didn't stay to watch, but I imagined her face when she read my name. She called me 5 times that day. I didn't answer. The next day, she came to the apartment, pounding on the door. "Ethan, open up, we need to talk." I didn't move. I had changed the locks that morning. She shouted, cried, and finally left. Her lawyer reached out 2 days later, accusing me of locking her out illegally. David sent them the lease, only my name. Then he sent the proof of her transfers, her messages with Mark, the bank records. After that, silence. Weeks passed before mediation. When the day came, she walked in looking smaller somehow. Her eyes were tired, her makeup heavy, her hands trembling. Her lawyer was young, nervous, and clearly unprepared. They tried to argue that the money she gave Mark was a loan. David didn't even flinch. He opened a binder full of statements, organized by date and category. Rent payments, laptop purchases, wellness retreat invoices. Every dollar had her name on it. Her lawyer asked for a break halfway through. They stepped into the hallway for 15 minutes. When they came back, Laura's eyes were red, her face pale. Her lawyer's voice was flat. "Perhaps we can negotiate an amicable settlement," he said. Laura looked at me, tears brimming. "Ethan, please, I know I messed up. We can fix this." Her voice cracked. "I'll cut him off. I'll pay you back. We can go to therapy." I just stared at her. "You didn't make one mistake, Laura. You made hundreds. Every transfer, every lie, every time you chose him over me." She reached for my hand. I pulled it back. "I can change," she whispered. "I don't believe you," I said quietly. "And even if I did, I can't live waiting for the next lie." David cleared his throat. "We're ready to finalize the division," he said. She kept her car and her personal belongings. I kept the apartment, the trust, and the remaining savings. We split the leftover $7,000 evenly. She left the room in tears, her lawyer trailing behind her. I sat there, feeling strangely empty. No victory, no satisfaction. Just relief that it was over. 2 months later, the divorce was finalized. I received the papers in the mail on a warm afternoon. I read them once, folded them, and set them aside. 6 years gone in a few sheets of paper. Friends stopped by later, offering drinks and sympathy. I didn't need either. What I needed was silence, and finally I had it. For the first time in years, I felt light. Not happy. Just free. Completely, quietly free. The apartment felt different after she left. Quieter, cleaner, lighter somehow. Her perfume faded from the walls. The silence no longer felt heavy. It felt peaceful. I spent the next weeks rebuilding small things. Cooking for one. Playing games without guilt. Calling friends I had avoided for months. They didn't ask for details, just stayed. I told my parents the divorce was final. My mother cried softly, but I didn't. There were no tears left to give. I walked through the park one evening, feeling the air on my face. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for a fight. I wasn't defending myself from someone I loved. I was just existing. Free from lies, free from guilt, free from her shadow. Sometimes, freedom doesn't come with joy. It comes with silence and the ability to breathe again. I lost 6 years, but I gained clarity. Love without trust is a slow kind of death. And I had finally learned how to live again.